When I first set my eyes on the property, it felt like a dream come true. A secluded home, nestled away from the noise of the city, with enough land to give me the kind of peace I had always longed for. After years of hard work, saving every penny, and dealing with landlords who never fixed a leaky faucet, I was finally a homeowner. But little did I know, trouble was lurking just beyond my fence line. The real estate agent had mentioned in passing, "Oh, by the way, this strip of land here? It's technically yours, but some folks from the HOA neighborhood next door have been using it as a shortcut. Shouldn't be a problem, though." I should have known then. Anytime someone says, "shouldn't be a problem," it usually is. At first, it was just a couple of cars. I'd be sitting on my porch, coffee in hand, watching a sedan or two drive through the narrow strip of my property. I figure, okay, maybe they don't know this isn't a public road. So I waved at them, a friendly neighborly wave, the kind that says, "Hey there, maybe you didn't realize, but this is private property." Most ignored me. A few waved back like we were old friends. And then they kept driving through my land as if they owned it. Days turned into weeks, and the traffic increased. Not just cars, but bicycles, golf carts, and even the occasional jogger. It was as if my little piece of paradise had been turned into the main street of a town I never signed up for. One evening, a massive SUV came barreling through so fast it kicked up a dust cloud that covered my freshly mowed lawn. I stood there, stunned, watching as my so-called private property became a convenience for everyone but me. That's when the first sliver of anger crept in. One afternoon, I saw a minivan stop just at the edge of my property. The driver, a woman in her 40s with the classic "I'm too busy for this" attitude, looked at me through her window. I walked toward her, waving her down. She rolled down her window with an exaggerated sigh. "Yes." I kept my voice polite but firm. "Hey there. Just wanted to let you know. This is private property. I'd appreciate it if folks stopped using it as a shortcut." She blinked at me, as if I had just spoken in ancient Greek. Then she laughed. "Oh, honey," she said, shaking her head. "This road's been here forever. It's just how we get through." My stomach tightened. "Right, but it's not a road. It's my land." She gave me a look, one of those condescending bless your heart expressions, before rolling up her window and driving off. It was official. They didn't care. It wasn't long before things escalated. One rainy evening, I stepped outside to get my mail when I noticed deep tire ruts torn through my yard. Mud had been flung in every direction. My once beautiful grass now a churned-up mess. It looked like a monster truck rally had taken place in my front yard. That was it. That was my breaking point. I took pictures, documented everything, and the next morning I marched down to the HOA office. Little did I know, I was about to meet my nemesis. The HOA office was a pristine building with fresh paint, neatly trimmed hedges, and a receptionist who looked like she had mastered the art of saying no before you even asked a question. "I need to speak to someone about an issue with trespassing," I said. The receptionist barely looked up. "Do you live in our HOA community?" "No, I live next to it. But your residents are using my land as a shortcut." That's when I heard the voice. A woman, mid-50s, perfectly curled blonde hair, dressed like she was running for office, appeared from behind the desk. "I'm Karen," she announced, as if that explained everything. "And I can assure you, our residents wouldn't do such a thing." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. "They do. Every single day. And last night, someone destroyed my yard." She gave me a tight-lipped smile. "Well, that's unfortunate, but if the road's been in use for years, it's basically an easement." I blinked. "Easement?" "No," I said. "It's not. It's my property." Karen just shrugged. "If our residents have been using it for years, they have every right to continue. Removing access might be problematic," she said. "Problematic the same way a king might say treasonous." I knew right then. This wasn't just about a shortcut. This was a battle. If they thought I was going to roll over, they had another thing coming. That evening, I did my research. I pulled up every document related to my property, confirming that there was no easement, no right-of-way, nothing. The land was mine, free and clear. So, the next morning I took action. I hired a fencing company. Not just any fence. A tall, sturdy, impossible-to-ignore fence. Right across the strip of land. I even put up a nice, big "No trespassing" sign for good measure. And then I waited. It didn't take long. At exactly 3:45 p.m., Karen arrived. A small battalion of HOA board members trailing behind her, like soldiers, marching into battle. She stood in front of the fence, hands on her hips, jaw tight. "What," she hissed, "is this?" I crossed my arms. "My fence. On my land. You know, the private property I told you about." She sputtered, turning to her minions for backup. One of them, a frail-looking man in khakis, cleared his throat. "You can't just block the road. It's not a road." And then, the moment I had been waiting for, Karen whipped out her phone. "I'm calling the police." I smiled. "Good. I'll wait." Karen stood there, phone pressed to her ear, pacing like a general about to unleash war. I leaned against my fence, arms crossed, waiting. I wasn't scared. I knew the law was on my side. Within 10 minutes, a police cruiser pulled up. A middle-aged officer, with a belly that suggested he enjoyed donuts as much as the next guy, stepped out. His name tag read Officer Reynolds. Karen practically leaped at him. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. This person has blocked a public access road. We need this fence removed immediately." Officer Reynolds adjusted his belt, sighed, and turned to me. "Sir, can I see some property documents?" Without a word, I pulled out the deed and my property map. I had come prepared. His eyes scanned the paperwork, and I swear I saw the moment Karen realized she had lost. "Well," Reynolds said, rubbing his chin, "looks like this land belongs to him." Karen's face twisted. But this has been used for years. That makes it a public road." The officer raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, that's not how property law works. If he owns it, he can put up a fence. You can't trespass." Karen's face went red. She turned to her HOA minions, who all suddenly seemed very interested in their shoes. Victory! Sweet, undeniable victory. But I should have known Karen wasn't done yet. Days passed. The fence stood tall. The shortcut traffic stopped. I thought I had won, until the letters started arriving. Official-looking envelopes from the HOA, stamped and sealed like they carried the words of the president himself. I opened the first one. "Dear property owner, it has come to our attention that you have erected a barrier that negatively impacts the homeowners in our community. We request that you remove the fence immediately, as it disrupts the natural flow of traffic. Failure to comply may result in legal action. Sincerely, HOA Board." I laughed. Legal action? I wasn't even part of their HOA. But then the second letter came, and the third, and the fourth. Then the fines started. Fines. From an HOA I wasn't even in. That's when I knew. Karen wasn't just mad. She was out for revenge. I wasn't about to let some overzealous HOA bully me. It was time to fight back. I contacted a lawyer, a sharp old guy named Mr. Whitaker, who had been dealing with HOA disputes for 30 years. He chuckled when I told him what was happening. "Oh, I love these cases. HOAs always think they can bully people into submission." He drafted a cease and desist letter faster than Karen could say, "cease your violation." Within 3 days, the HOA had a legal notice in their mailbox stating that they had no authority over my property. Any further harassment would result in legal action against them. They were to remove all fines and retract all complaints immediately. I wish I could have seen Karen's face when she read it. But the war wasn't over yet. You'd think after a legal smackdown they'd back off. Nope. One morning, I woke up to a notice taped to my fence. Notice of violation. Your fence does not meet the aesthetic standards of a neighborhood, and must be removed or replaced with an HOA-approved design. I stared at it, stunned. Aesthetic standards? For a property that wasn't even in their HOA. They had found a new loophole to try and control me. But this time, I was ready. I called Mr. Whitaker. They're claiming my fence is an eyesore. He chuckled. Great. Let's make sure they regret that. If they wanted to play dirty, so could I. I had the fence painted the most obnoxious color imaginable. A bright, neon pink. Within 24 hours, Karen was at my door. You can't do this, she shrieked, waving a stack of HOA bylaws. I smiled. Oh, but I can. Your HOA rules don't apply to me. She looked like she was going to explode. This is harassment. I tilted my head. Oh, kind of like how your HOA has been harassing me. She stomped away, fuming. A week later, I got a letter from the county zoning office. Apparently, someone, cough Karen cough, had filed a formal complaint about my fence. But instead of ruling in her favor, the county did an official land survey. And guess what? They discovered that part of the HOA's communal property actually encroached on MY land. Karen had been fighting me over a fence, when in reality, her HOA had been illegally using my land all along. With my lawyer's help, I filed a lawsuit for property damages. By the time it was over, the HOA had to pay me a settlement, issue a public apology, never, ever contact me again. Karen resigned from the HOA a month later. And my fence, it's still standing, bright pink and proud. These days, my property is quiet. No more cars, no more entitled joggers, no more HOA nonsense. And every morning, I sit on my porch, coffee in hand, looking at my fence with a satisfied smile. Sometimes the little guy wins.